Kratom. Kratom is a tropical leaf from Southeast Asia that acts like a mild opioid, legally sold in gas stations, smoke shops, and online. People brew it as tea, swallow it in capsules, or mix the powder into drinks. Most users treat it like coffee, something to boost energy or ease pain. But it binds to the same brain receptors as morphine and heroin, just with less intensity. Once it enters your bloodstream, kratom's active chemicals, metrogenine and 7-hydroxymetrogenine, attach to opioid receptors in your brain. At low doses, the onset feels stimulating. Energy rises, focus sharpens, and pain fades. You feel awake, motivated, and capable. It's subtle enough that you might not realize you're high. At higher doses, the peak shifts completely. Stimulation turns to sedation. Your body relaxes, warmth spreads through your limbs, and stress dissolves. It feels like a gentle opioid hug, comfortable, safe, controllable. Then comes the come down. The energy drains, leaving you tired and irritable. If you've been using it daily, stopping brings withdrawal, sweating, nausea, muscle aches, insomnia, and anxiety. The symptoms are milder than heroin, but they're real. Kratom is psychologically and physically addictive. Your brain starts expecting it to function normally, and tolerance builds fast. Over time, users need more to feel anything at all. Legally, it exists in a gray zone, banned in some states, unregulated in others. People call it a natural alternative, a harmless plant. But your brain doesn't care where opioids come from. Nitrous oxide, laughing gas balloons. Nitrous oxide is laughing gas, the same chemical dentists use to keep patients calm during procedures. Recreationally, people inhale it from whipped cream canisters or balloons at parties and festivals. It feels harmless because it's legal, medical, and the high lasts only 30 seconds. But those 30 seconds cut off oxygen to your brain. When you inhale nitrous oxide, it floods your lungs and enters your bloodstream, traveling instantly to your brain. There, it blocks NMDA receptors, the same ones affected by ketamine and alcohol. The onset hits within seconds. Sound becomes muffled and distorted, like you're underwater. Your body feels weightless, detached, and a wave of euphoria rushes through you. Everything seems hilarious, profound, or both at once. At the peak, reality bends. Your sense of self dissolves briefly. Some people describe a ringing sensation, a feeling of being pulled backward, or the sense, strange, that they've understood something important about existence. Then it ends as fast as it started. Within a minute, the world snaps back. You're left slightly dizzy, disoriented, and craving another hit immediately. That's the trap. Because the high is so short, people inhale repeatedly, sometimes dozens of times in one session. Each time, your brain is starved of oxygen. Do it often enough, and nitrous oxide depletes vitamin B12, which your nerves need to function. Long-term users develop numbness, difficulty walking, and permanent nerve damage. DXM. DXM, or more commonly known as robo-tripping, is dextromethorphan, the active ingredient in over-the-counter cough syrup. At normal doses, it suppresses coughs. At high doses, it becomes a dissociative hallucinogen that separates your mind from your body. People drink entire bottles of syrup, swallow handfuls of gel caps, or extract the powder. The experience is called robo-tripping because your movements become stiff and mechanical. Once consumed, DXM converts in your liver into DXO, which blocks NMDA receptors in your brain, the same receptors affected by ketamine and PCP. The onset creeps in slowly over an hour. Your body feels heavy, distant, like you're piloting it remotely. Nausea hits hard at first, a side effect of chugging syrup meant for teaspoons. At lower doses, the peak feels dreamy and floaty. Music sounds richer, thoughts drift, and reality softens around the edges. But at higher doses, the experience shifts into full dissociation. You might see closed-eye visuals, feel like you're watching yourself from across the room, or lose track of where your body ends and space begins. Time stretches. Your bathroom mirror becomes a portal. Coordination vanishes completely. As the come-down starts, grogginess takes over. Your thoughts move like sludge. speech slurs, and a chemical hangover lingers for hours or even days. DXM builds tolerance rapidly, meaning each trip requires more to reach the same level. Heavy use causes memory problems, liver damage, and a condition called Olney's lesions, where parts of your brain physically deteriorate. 2CB. 2CB is a synthetic psychedelic created in a lab during the 1970s. It sits somewhere between MDMA and LSD, offering both visual hallucinations and emotional warmth. People take it as powder or pills at raves, festivals, and clubs because the experience feels more controllable than a full acid trip. Once swallowed, 2CB binds to serotonin receptors in your brain, particularly that states that shape perception and mood. The onset begins within 30 to 45 minutes, often with nausea that fades as the drug takes hold. Colors start to intensify, patterns begin to breathe, and your body feels electric and sensitive to touch. At the peak, visuals bloom without overwhelming you. Surfaces ripple, light trails behind moving objects, and everything pulses with energy. Music feels physical, like you can see sound waves moving through the air. Emotionally, you feel open and connected, but clearer than on MDMA. You can still think, hold conversations, and stay grounded in reality, even while it shifts around you. The experience lasts 4 to 6 hours, shorter than LSD. As the come-down arrives, visuals fade gradually, and your thoughts return to normal. Some people feel energized afterward, others exhausted. There's no harsh crash, just a slow descent back to baseline. 2CB can trigger anxiety or paranoia at higher doses, and like all psychedelics, set and setting determine whether the trip feels magical or terrifying. Physically, it's relatively safe, but the powder is easy to overdose because active doses are measured in milligrams. A few extra milligrams can turn a pleasant trip into hours of overwhelming chaos. GHB. GHB is gamma-hydroxybutyrate, a central nervous system depressant that exists naturally in your brain in tiny amounts. Synthetic versions are used medically to treat narcolepsy, but recreationally it's taken as a clear, salty liquid, measured in capfuls or milliliters. People use it for euphoria, lowered inhibitions, and enhanced sociability. The problem is the safe dose and the deadly dose are dangerously close. Once consumed, GHB enhances GABA, the neurotransmitter that slows brain activity and promotes relaxation. It also triggers a release of dopamine and growth hormone. The onset begins within 15 to 30 minutes. Your body loosens, anxiety melts away, and a warm wave of euphoria spreads through you. At the right dose, the peak feels like the best parts of alcohol without the sloppiness. You're social, confident, and physically relaxed. Music sounds better, touch feels heightened, and everything seems easy and flowing. But add even one extra capful, and the experience flips. Speech slurs, motor control vanishes, and memory starts cutting out in chunks. Go slightly further, and you're unconscious, breathing shallow, potentially slipping into a coma. The margin for error is razor thin. As the come-down hits after 2 to 4 hours, you might wake up confused, nauseous, or not remember the night at all. GHB is highly addictive, with severe physical dependence. Withdrawal causes tremors, insomnia, anxiety, and, in extreme cases, seizures that require hospitalization. The substance that promises effortless social flow can stop your breathing with a single mismeasured dose. Euphoria and unconsciousness are separated by a teaspoon. PCP. PCP is phencyclidine, a dissociative anesthetic developed in the 1950s for surgery, but abandoned because patients woke up agitated and psychotic. Now it exists as a street drug, smoked on cigarettes or joints, snorted as powder, or injected. The urban legends about superhuman strength and violent outbursts have roots in reality. Once it enters your system, PCP blocks NMDA receptors in your brain, severing the connection between sensory input and emotional response. The onset begins within minutes if smoked, longer if swallowed. Your body feels numb and distant, like you're controlling it through a thick fog. Pain disappears completely. At low doses, the peak brings euphoria, distorted perception, and a floating sensation. But at higher doses, reality fractures. You lose the ability to distinguish between thoughts and actions, between yourself and your surroundings. Some users report feeling invincible, detached from consequences, or convinced they're in a different place entirely. Time collapses, speech becomes garbled, and coordination vanishes. The dissociation is so complete that physical harm doesn't register. That's where the stories come from. People on PCP don't feel injuries, fear, or exhaustion, so they keep moving long after their body should have stopped. As the come-down stretches over hours or even days, confusion, paranoia, and aggression can linger. Memory gaps are common. Some users experience flashbacks or persistent psychosis that lasts weeks. PCP is unpredictable and psychologically addictive. The drug that disconnects you from pain also disconnects you from reality, reason, and self-preservation. Phenibut. Phenibut is a Russian anti-anxiety drug developed in the 1960s for Soviet cosmonauts to stay calm in space without losing focus. In Russia, it requires a prescription. In the United States, it's sold legally as a dietary supplement online. People take it for social anxiety, stress relief, and sleep. The pills are swallowed, and the effects take 2 to 4 hours to arrive. Once absorbed, Phenibut crosses the blood-brain barrier and enhances GABA, the neurotransmitter that calms neural activity. It also mildly affects dopamine receptors, adding a subtle mood lift. The onset is gradual and gentle. Social anxiety fades, conversations flow naturally, and stress dissolves without sedation. You feel like a better version of yourself, confident but clear-headed. At the peak, which can last 6 to 8 hours, everything feels manageable. Music sounds richer, sleep comes easily, and worry simply stops occupying mental space. There's no euphoria, just a smooth, functional calm that feels almost too good to be real. Then, the tolerance builds. Within days of regular use, the same dose stops working. Users increase the amount, chasing that initial relief. When you try to stop, withdrawal hits harder than almost any other legal substance. Severe rebound anxiety, insomnia, tremors, rapid heartbeat, and, in extreme cases, hallucinations and seizures. The withdrawal can last weeks and requires medical supervision to taper safely. Salvia Divinorum. Salvia is a psychoactive plant native to Mexico, legal in many places and sold in smoke shops. People smoke the dried leaves or concentrated extracts from a pipe or bong. The trip lasts only 5 to 10 minutes, but those minutes feel like lifetimes. Salvia doesn't resemble LSD, mushrooms, or any classic psychedelic. The experience is stranger and far less pleasant. Once inhaled, salvinorin A, the active compound, floods kappa opioid receptors in your brain. These receptors don't produce euphoria. They distort reality in ways that feel alien and uncomfortable. The onset is immediate and violent. Within seconds, you forget you took a drug. You forget you're a person. Reality doesn't just shift, it replaces itself completely. At the peak, users report becoming objects. You might believe you're a chair, a wall, a page in a book being flipped. Some feel like they're being pulled through dimensions, stretched across space, or living someone else's entire life from birth to death. Laughter is common, but purely mechanical. Your body reacting while your mind is gone. There's no euphoria, no insight, just confusion and the overwhelming sensation that this will never end. Then, as abruptly as it started, the come-down begins. Reality rebuilds itself piece by piece. You remember language, your body, your name. Most people are left disoriented, disturbed, and with zero desire to try it again. Salvia offers no wisdom, no fun, no connection. Mephedrone, meow meow. Mephedrone, or meow meow, is a synthetic stimulant that exploded in popularity during the late 2000s as a legal alternative to MDMA and cocaine. Nicknamed meow meow or MCAT, it's snorted as powder, swallowed in capsules, or occasionally injected. For a brief window, it was legal and sold openly online before governments caught up and banned it. Once consumed, mephedrone floods your brain with serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine all at once. The rush is faster than MDMA, but shorter than cocaine. The onset hits within minutes if snorted. Euphoria surges through you. Energy spikes, and everything feels electric and perfect. Your heart races, pupils dilate, and conversation flows endlessly. You feel invincible, social, and deeply connected to everyone around you. At the peak, the high is intense but fleeting. Music sounds incredible. Touch feels amazing. And every moment pulses with possibility. But within 30 to 60 minutes, it starts fading. That's when the trap closes. The come-down arrives fast and harsh. The euphoria vanishes, replaced by anxiety, restlessness, and an overwhelming urge to redose immediately. So you do, then again, then again. The compulsion to keep using is stronger than almost any other drug. Users binge for hours or days, chasing a high that gets weaker with each line. When the supply finally runs out, the crash is brutal. Depression, paranoia, insomnia, and complete emotional exhaustion. Your brain's serotonin reserves are depleted, leaving you hollow for days. 25I-NBOME, InBomb series. 25I-NBOME is a synthetic psychedelic often sold as LSD, but far more dangerous. It's pretty much fake acid. It's laid on blotter paper, looks identical to acid tabs, and costs less to produce. Most people who take it think they're getting LSD until the effects feel wrong. The difference matters because NBOME can kill you on a single tab. Once absorbed through the mouth or under the tongue, 25I-NBOME binds aggressively to serotonin receptors, particularly the 5-HT2A receptor. The onset begins within 20 to 40 minutes. Visuals hit hard and fast, often more intense than LSD. Colors oversaturate, patterns twist violently, and reality fractures into geometric chaos. Your body feels strange, tingly, electric. At the peak, the trip can be overwhelming. Hallucinations dominate, thought loops spiral, and paranoia creeps in. Unlike LSD, which feels somewhat gentle and exploratory, NBOME feels harsh, jittery, and physically uncomfortable. Your heart rate spikes dangerously high, blood pressure rises, and seizures can occur without warning. Some users report numbness in their limbs or difficulty breathing. As the come-down stretches over 6 to 10 hours, exhaustion and confusion linger. Anxiety and panic attacks are common. The real danger is the unpredictability. Because it's sold as acid, people often take multiple tabs expecting LSD's safety profile, but NBOME's toxic dose sits close to its active dose. Deaths have occurred from single hits. There's no safe way to eyeball it. The blotter that promises enlightenment might deliver a seizure, a heart attack, or brain damage instead. Ibogaine. Ibogaine is a psychedelic compound extracted from the root bark of the iboga plant, native to Central Africa. For decades, it's been used in underground clinics to treat opioid addiction because it reportedly resets the brain's dependency pathways. The experience lasts 24 to 36 hours and feels nothing like a recreational trip. Once swallowed as a capsule or powder, Ibogaine floods your system and interacts with multiple neurotransmitter systems at once, including serotonin, dopamine, and opioid receptors. The onset begins within 1 to 3 hours. Nausea hits first, often violently. Your body feels heavy, immobilized, pinned to the bed. Then the visions start. At the peak, you're locked inside your mind for hours. Eyes closed, you watch your life replay in vivid detail. Memories you forgot, trauma you buried, choices you regret. Some describe it as confronting your entire existence at once. There's no euphoria, no escape, just raw psychological exposure. Users report understanding their addiction from the outside, seeing the patterns clearly for the first time. As the come-down slowly unfolds over the next day, physical withdrawal symptoms from opioids vanish almost entirely. Cravings reduce or disappear. The brain's reward system seems to reset. But Ibogaine is cardiotoxic. It can cause irregular heartbeats, and deaths have occurred, particularly in people with pre-existing heart conditions or when used without medical supervision. The substance that promises to free you from addiction can stop your heart in the process. 5-MeO-DMT, toad venom. Better known as toad venom, 5-MeO-DMT is one of the most powerful psychedelics known, extracted from the venom of the Sonoran desert toad or synthesized in labs. It's vaporized and inhaled, and the experience lasts only 10 to 20 minutes, but those minutes erase your sense of self completely. People describe it as ego death, the total dissolution of identity, memory, and awareness. Once inhaled, 5-MeO-DMT floods serotonin receptors with overwhelming intensity. The onset is instantaneous. Within seconds, reality vanishes. You don't see visuals or hallucinations because there's no you left to see anything. Your sense of being a person disappears entirely. At the peak, there's no time, no body, no thoughts. Some report merging with the universe, experiencing infinite white light, or feeling an overwhelming presence of pure existence. Others describe it as terrifying, like being erased from reality while still somehow conscious. There's no narrative, no storyline, just raw, formless experience beyond language. Then, just as suddenly, the come-down begins. Your sense of self rebuilds piece by piece. You remember your name, your body, the room you're in. Most people are left shaken, speechless, struggling to process what just happened. Some feel profound peace or spiritual awakening. Others feel traumatized. 5-MeO-DMT is not physically dangerous, but psychologically it's among the most intense substances that exist. There's no easing into it, no controlling the experience. The toad venom that shamans use for transcendence doesn't take you on a journey. It deletes you completely, then brings you back.